Hello and welcome to Todd Rolls Dice, where we're going to finally take a look at the new Kill Team quarterly update. So, while they say quarterly update, the last one of these that we did, or the last update for Kill Team, was about 4 weeks ago in June. Not really sure what kind of timescale Kill Team is on, but we do know what's coming next. I have a video talking more about that in depth and going over the article and just giving you my full unadulterated thoughts on what this new Kill Team box is. So that video should already be out, but I'll tag it at the end of this if you've missed it. This one is taking a look at all of the existing kill teams that we have right now. So we're going to run through the article because this time they've actually told us it's dropped. This did drop 2 days ago. Unfortunately, due to some personal circumstances, I'm a little bit late on this one. It's gonna happen. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. I've tweaked the format again. I've never really been quite happy with how I've delivered these. Hopefully this one's better, so let me know what you think in the comments. As I say, we're going to run through this and then we're going to run through all of the changes, see how it affects your kill team moving forward. This article is quite a nice one, I will say. There's some interesting little snippets in here and some clarifications about the future. Well, one future kill team at least. But let's get into this one. The Kill Team quarterly update. Astartes adjusted and other big changes. With 2 new kill teams revealed at the big summer preview, you'll no doubt be formulating fresh strategies for tackling the latest Necron threat in the eerie confines of a tomb world. This isn't the only incoming change, as it is once again time for your regularly scheduled quarterly balance update. It's free to download below and on the official Kill Team app. The app will probably need updating in your app store first. That's if you're not seeing these changes, that's how you'll see the changes, and then just go in and update the relevant bits. But they've also got a quick sit rep from the team on the thought process behind these changes. We're happy with the way the meta is in the system overall, which means we can focus on toning down overperforming teams. The most notable adjustments are to Adeptus Astartes teams, which all see some level of adjustment. Loyalist and Heretic Space Marines alike have had a profound impact on the game so far, as powerful teams which are often well represented in events. These adjustments should provide other kill teams with more counterplay and bring them more in line with the field. Can we get a breakdown of win rates and things actually, Games Workshop, again? You remember the MetaWatch thing that you started doing? You even designed a logo for. Can you bring that back? We've also clarified that dice cannot be retained more than once, which resolves how rules like punishing and rending interact with accurate and severe. This prevents those rules stacking together, affecting the balance of teams that rely on this combo. I think that's completely fair. We've compiled 5 of the biggest changes below. The guard action has been adjusted so that performing a fight or shoot action while on guard will now prevent that operative from counter-attacking later in the turning point. Interesting change. Adeptus and Heretic Astartes teams have had some of the strongest parts of their toolkit turned down. Each change has been tailored to the difficulties they are presenting. For example, the Angels of Death's Dueler chapter tactic no longer allows blocking multiple dice, which was oppressive to melee teams with fewer attack dice. Completely agree. While the Nemesis Claw has had the distance requirement in Midnight Clad changed to make them less durable to shooting teams. What I will say, having already compiled the changes and had a quick skim of them, they don't feel heavy-handed initially, which I think is how if they're happy with the state of the meta overall, it is just fine-tuning now, and it feels like it's fine-tuning. So all of this is pretty positive so far. Brood Brothers, Hirotek Circle, and Pathfinders have all seen significant success with early attacks in the first turning point. All of these teams have had new restrictions put on their rules to reduce this pressure on other teams. We'll see what those changes are when we get there. Despite their changes in the last update, the Sanctifiers have continued to present unique problems in the meta. Is it because they're favoured by the Emperor? Their mobility has been near unmatched. That's what happens when you give people movement shenanigans like they had. And their faction rules allow them to put out significant stopping power even with weaker weapons. To bring this team down a notch, the Confessors Lead the Procession rule has again been changed and now only allows for movement up to 3 inches, while the Blaze faction rule now only applies Blaze tokens if critical damage is actually inflicted on the opponent, meaning defensive tools are far more effective against the Sanctifier's many flame weapons. Sanctifiers were always going to be a problem. Once you understood how they played, I didn't, but I could see those signs. But once somebody who was good at the game understood how they played, the amount of blaze that they could put onto other teams, the amount of movement that they had, they were definitely going to be very strong, despite their weaker, very glass cannon-like design. I don't know if these changes are too much. I quite like the lead the procession rule. We'll get into that more in detail. Blaze, I think that's open for discussion. We'll see. Imperial Navy breaches and Hunter Clade have both been strengthened, with the latter now able to bring an additional Sicaran or Gunner operative, and the former receiving an additional wound to increase their durability on the battlefield. Every Imperial Navy breach operative has +1 wound, which is quite a nice buff. Updates to the classified format are approaching, alongside the annual rotation. Annual rotation is something I'm going to come back to because we did have an article last year. I want to re-go over it. I don't think I was doing videos at the time. I'm going to re-go over it. We'll record it. We'll see what we think at this point just before it takes place. These updates will be made to the Approved Ops Tournament Companion, which will be found on the Kill Team app and on Warcom after the World Championships of Warhammer in November 2025. So the next big changes will probably be November. And then we have a further clarification. Strike Force Variel, the Dark Angels, not Dark Angels, new Space Marine Heroes kill team, has no part in the classified format. So it isn't going to be a fully competitive legal team. It is just a starter team to get people in. I think we all sort of thought that would be the case, and they certainly wouldn't have a fully fleshed kit. It is just a way of getting people to, 1, collect Space Marines, and 2, to see that there is this game called Kill Team. We'll see. I mean, I don't think Fariel was the most exciting announcement for Kill Team. Nice looking sculpts on the whole, but there's a lot of changes to the Warhammer Heroes format that I covered in another video a couple of weeks back when they were announced. It's not great. And because of those changes, I don't actually think you're going to see many people with the complete collection, so not having them as part of the classified format is probably a good move. Generally, some interesting updates, but not a huge amount here. Quite a few teams have changed, but nowhere near as many as had the clarification changes in June. But let's jump over to the new format. I've put together a PowerPoint slide for the July 2025 Errata Balance Update. Core Rules Update Log. So we have an Errata and a rules commentary. The Errata, Killzone Gallowdark, Close Quarters, On Guard. Add the following text to the end of the first paragraph. If you do, that friendly operative cannot counteract during the turning point. Just toning down how you use guard. I'm interested to see how it changes things. But I think that this is a change looking forward to Tomb World, what Tomb World is going to bring. We know we're going back into this closed quarters facility. I'm interested to know what special rules Tomb World will bring to the game. Also, they're starting to tweak things just to make the close quarter stuff a little bit more user-friendly and not quite as oppressive. So it's an interesting change. I don't know what it will do straight away, but once the new season starts, we'll see how that impacts things moving forward. And then the weapon rules for Severe in the appendix, the second sentence has been changed to read, the devastating and piercing crits weapon rules still take effect, but punishing and rend don't. So they're just tweaking that reroll thing. I think it's a fair change, but we'll see how it interacts with everything else. The rules commentary, we just have the one question here. It's a question: while shooting, fighting, or retaliating, if I retain a dice as a normal success, e.g. accurate 1, can I use another rule to retain it again as a critical success, e.g. rending? Answer: no, a dice can only be retained once. Note, however, that some rules refer specifically to changing a retained dice, e.g. the severe weapon rule, and that these allow a dice to be changed after being retained. I think that's a fair question, and I think that's a pretty solid answer. Space Marines, the Angels of Death. Some interesting ones. We'll go faction rules, chapter tactics, dueler first, so it has been changed to read, whenever this operative is fighting or retaliating, each of your normal successes can block 1 unresolved critical success, unless the enemy operative's weapon has the brutal weapon rule. The Intercessor Sergeant Operative Doctrine Warfare rule has been changed to read, you can do each of the following once per battle. Whenever you would use a combat doctrine strategy ploy and then select Devastator, if this operative is on the kill zone, it costs you 0 CP, so a free switch into Devastator. And whenever you would use the combat doctrine strategy ploy, then set Tactical, if this operative is on the kill zone, it costs you 0 CP. So it's further specializing, but you can do each once per battle, so a little bit of a restriction there. Probably quite fair again. The Assault Intercessor Sergeant operative doctrine has been changed to be the same, so it's just keeping it the same across the board for the Sergeant operatives. Interesting one, the Heavy Intercessor Gunner operative has had his move stat changed to 5, that's up an inch from 4. We'll see what that does. I think 5, I don't know, I mean I understand it, but being slow but heavily armored, lots of wounds. 5 is an interesting change. I suppose it means that you're more likely to pick it. I still think you go with the Eliminator. I just think that silent rule is so strong. Once you get him set up with his cloak and everything, I'm not sure how much play that's going to make for the Heavy Intercessor. But let me know your thoughts between the two. Which heavy weapon do you take? Phobos Strike Team. We have the only change here for the strategy ploy is Deadly Shot. The relevant part of the first sentence has been changed to read, or against an operative that isn't in cover and is more than 6 inches from it. That friendly operatives' ranged weapons have the balanced weapon rule, so it's just confirming distances and things, just toning them down a little bit. And with a kill team where all of their weapons, or pretty much all of their weapons, have lethal 5 up, it's probably a fair change. Scout Squad. The Firefight Ploy's Emboldened Aspirant has had another change. I think this was changed last time around. Did it have some clarifications? Looks like they've tweaked some of that a little bit more. But the whole thing has been changed to read, use this Firefight Ploy when a friendly Scout Squad operative performs a shoot or fight action after any rerolls. If it's the first friendly operative to perform either of those actions during this turning point, or if the enemy operative in that action primary target, if relevant, has a higher wound stat than that friendly Scout Squad operative, you can retain one of your normal successes as a critical success instead. So it is perform the action, they've got rid of at the end of the roll attack dice step, because by stating after any rerolls, you are confirming that you've already done that step. And it just lets you retain a normal as a critical if you're going into something with more wounds than you. It's an interesting change. I don't really know if it changes a huge amount, it's just making it a little bit clearer, but we'll see. Adeptus, Mechanicus, Hunter Clade. Again, a couple of interesting changes here. First one, for team selection, Asterix has been changed to read, you cannot select more than 7 of these operatives combined. So those operatives are the Infiltrator Warrior, the Ruststalker Warrior, the Ranger Gunner, or the Vanguard Gunner. So Gunner and Warrior operatives can be taken twice, and now you can take up to 7 of them, meaning you get a little bit extra punch. Also, with Firefight Ploys, Omnissiah's Imperative, the third sentence of the first paragraph has been deleted. Now that paragraph said inflict D3 plus 1 damage on that friendly operative. Omnissiah's Imperative lets you change your Imperative rule, but that operative, if you did that, would take damage. They've now completely got rid of that damage, so you just change it to what you need it to be for that turning point. It's a very simple change, but you are now not actively damaging the unit that you're doing on, meaning you're more likely to do that. It's probably taking a potential of 4 wounds on a low wound kill team isn't ideal. It is a nice change. We'll see if that means that Omnissiah's Imperative is used more. It probably will be, because it is now, there's none of that negative element to it. Interesting changes to the Hunter Clade. Hunter Clade, I'm just going to remind everyone, is one of those teams that it was a White Dwarf team that came out in the first year of the original Kill Team 2021. So it's one that we're probably going to see disappearing in November. So I like that they're changing it, but you're not going to get the benefit for too long, unless things change. But again, interesting changes, and it just lets you take a little bit more punch with the more than 7. So that change has gone up to 7 from 6, so you are gaining an extra operative with one of those weapon types. And it gives you that extra element of building and how you want to build your team. I like it, I think it's a really nice change. Imperial Navy Breaches, as we've mentioned, every operative has had +1 to wound, so the Sergeant at Arms and Gunner operatives have gone up to wound stat of 9. The Endurant has gone up to an 11, and the Armsman, Axejack, Grenader, Hatch Cutter, Surveyor and Void Jammer operatives have all gone up to wound stat 8. Very small change, but it's really nice, and it overall adds a big chunk of extra health for this entire kill team. Hopefully this is going to make them a little bit more durable so they stick around for longer. They've also changed the Void Jam operative Geist Skull detonator weapon. It's gone down from lethal 5 up to lethal 4 up, so it's more likely to get those critical wounds through. I think this is just changes to struggling kill teams. Hopefully it really helps. I know in the comments some people have been saying that the Imperial Navy Breach is really struggling. Hopefully this fixes that issue. Genuinely, I want all of the teams to be playable, and the people who like those teams and want to run those teams actually have a chance of doing well with them. I'm not entirely sure that giving things an extra wound is the best way to get around it, but these guys have all the data, the kill team, they obviously know what they're doing. The changes overall have been pretty good in the last 12 months. Hopefully this just gives breaches that little bit of a leg up, and you're going to start to see them climb and have more fun and more wins with them. But we'll see. Navy Breacher players, let me know what you think of this change. The Noviciates. One change here, Firefight Ploys Blazing Inferno. The first sentence has been changed to read, with a Ministorum Flamer, and you inflict damage with any critical successes. So I didn't know what this one was. I don't play Noviciates. I don't really know the rules, to be fair. But the Firefight Ploy in full, Blazing Inferno, use this Firefight Ploy when a friendly Novitiate operative is shooting with a Ministorum Flamer, and you inflict damage with any critical successes. The target gains one of your Blaze tokens if it doesn't already have one. Whenever an operative that has one of your Blaze tokens is activated, inflict D3 damage on it, and its controlling player can subtract 1 from the operative's APL stat until the end of the activation to remove the token. Note that this must be done before the operative performs any actions during that activation. So you put your burn token on only on a critical success, and you have to inflict damage with it as well. It's not just a critical success, you do damage based off that critical success. When they activate, they will always take the D3 damage, and then they can burn a APL to remove that Blaze token. Basically pat themselves out. Or you don't, and you just stay on fire. It's similar to the Necromunda. It's better done than the Necromunda Blaze rule, but honestly, we'll see. It's just a clarificational change. It probably isn't going to change how people have been using it, but at least they're clarifying this stuff. The Sanctifiers. So once again, the Confessor operative has had the lead the procession rule changed. Relevant part of the third section has been changed to read, but each cannot move more than 3 inches and must end that move in a location where they're still benefiting from the sermon. Because this has changed quite a lot since this team came out, I think they've had a change to this every update. I'm going to run through the full thing just so we're all on the same page. Lead the procession in each turning point after the first. Whenever this operative is an orator and performs the charge, fallback or reposition action during its activation, you can use this rule before it moves. If you do, determine each other friendly Sanctifier operative that's benefiting from the sermon. After this operative ends that action, each of those friendly Sanctifier operatives can immediately perform a free charge, fallback or reposition action in an order of your choice, choosing separately for each. But each cannot move more than 3 inches and must end that move in a location where they're still benefiting from the sermon. If this operative is incapacitated before this rule is fully resolved, e.g. from the guard action's interruption, don't remove it from the kill zone until this rule has been resolved. I think it's a good change, and originally this was from the first turning point onwards. They got rid of that so you don't get that first turn shoot up the board. Putting the movement down, I think it's a good change. I think it takes away one of the big oppressive things about this team. I still think that because of how it was written originally, you had to castle up, you had to group up, making you a big target. We'll see. I understand why they've changed it, and it probably was very oppressive with the people using the Blaze stuff and all the other things, but changing Blaze and reducing the movement of lead the procession, I think might be too much. All we can do is see how these changes affect the game moving forward. And again, I think that this is very much a change for the closed quarters moving into the Tomb World, probably October time, September, October, whenever that box releases. Because if they could move as much as they could within closed quarters, that would be a real problem moving forward. While at the minute I think this change might be too much, I think it's going to be needed for the future of, or the next season of Kill Team. The Relinquent Operative Imperial Cult Devotion rule has been changed, so the first sentence changed to read, once per turning point, when a ready, friendly Sanctifier operative is incapacitated, while visible to and within 6 inches of this operative, you can use this rule. They've just added it to being visible. Again, most of these rules work on visibility. That's probably how it was being played, but it just confirms it. It is a balance update, so maybe they intended it to be anywhere within 6 inches and it was just too powerful, because all of the other ones were too powerful and they toned them down to being visible to and. Yeah, interesting. The final one, Faction Rules Blaze, the Blaze Weapon Rule. The relevant part of the first sentence has been changed to read, if you inflict damage with any critical successes, the operative this weapon is being used against gains 1 of your Blaze tokens. Basically, it's the same change to the Noviciates. From how this kind of rule would work in the real world, and it's a bit of a weird example, but bear with me. If you set something on fire using a flamethrower, you have to hit the thing and do enough damage to set it on fire before, don't you? There's that, it doesn't just instantly take. Mentally, that's kind of how I'm seeing it. You do a bit of damage, right, that opponent's on fire. You don't do any damage, they're not on fire. You're probably going to do some damage, and therefore put that blaze rule on, but it has to be a critical success to get it through. It tones it down slightly. Maybe it is a good change. I think logically, if you do damage, then you apply status effects and things. If you don't do damage, you don't apply status effects. That's not necessarily how Kill Team's been built, but it is a decent clarification. We'll see what it does to the Sanctifiers. Chaos Space Marines, the Legionaries. Couple of changes here. First one, strategy ploys Fickle Fates. The first paragraph has been changed to read, whenever a friendly Legionary operative is shooting a ready enemy operative, that friendly operative's ranged weapons have the balanced weapon rule. They have removed, if the weapon already has that weapon rule, e.g. the Reaper chain cannon, it has relentless rule instead. No more buffs. You gain balanced. If you already have balanced, you don't gain a benefit. It's just toning it down. The chain cannon was gross, it's probably quite fair. Strategy ploys Blood for the Blood God. The relevant part of the first paragraph has been changed to read, inflict 1 additional damage to a maximum of 7. So before this change it was just inflict 1 additional damage. There wasn't that cap on, so they have put a cap on that just to tone it down a little bit. And then the relevant part of the second paragraph has been changed to read, Legionary Khorne operatives melee weapons to a maximum of 7. So that is regarding the Khorne special bit for the Blood God. Strategy ploys, which stated, add 1 to both damage stats for friendly Legionary Khorne operatives melee weapons. So while you still add that 1 damage to both stats, you cannot take your damage stat above 7. So it is just toning down the ceiling. Probably not a bad thing. It also means that when you're doing this additional damage or normal damage with a Khorne operative, you're not actually outright killing them in one hit. It's an interesting change. We'll see what it does. And then we have a change to the strategy ploys Implacable. Nurgle keyword moved to other paragraph and paragraphs reordered. And as if by magic, Implacable has appeared. So Implacable in full, we may as well go over it. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly Legionary operative, weapons with the Piercing 1 weapon rule have the Piercing crits 1 weapon rule instead. And then you can ignore any changes to the stats of friendly Legionary Nurgle operatives from being injured, including their weapon stats. Again, another really interesting change. I would argue that it makes your standard Legionary operatives that little bit more defensive, because it used to be that they ignored changes to the stats, and then the Nurgle operatives knocked the piercing down to piercing crits. I'm not entirely sure what this is going to do. I guess what the change does is it means that you're not quite as resilient to stat changes for all of your other operatives. Is it a change that needed doing? You'll have to let me know what you think in the comments below, but it does further go to show, I think, that the team is really looking into these rules and trying to just pick little elements how to tweak and tone teams down instead of huge blanket changes. We'll see. The Night Lord's Nemesis Claw. Couple of changes here. Faction rules in Midnight Clad has had another change. First bullet point change to read, if it's more than 8 inches from enemy operatives, it's visible to. So that distance is up from 6 inches, which means you've got an extra 2 inches of being in close-ish for shooting teams to try and get damage on. It's probably a good change. We'll see how much it affects things, but 8 inches is still within charge range. It's still going to hurt if they get in there. We'll see what happens. I suppose it makes counterattacks and things and guard a little bit more useful against Nemesis Claw. Again, if that's the reason they're doing this, it's because Tomb World is coming up. Strategy ploys, return to darkness. The relevant part of the second sentence changed to read, in addition, it cannot move more than 4 inches during that action, and it cannot end that move closer to enemy operatives. Just toning down the movement there. And then the visionary operative, prescience rule, additional text added between the first and second sentence. At the end of each turning point, discard your prescience points. So now at the end of every turn you're getting rid of those points, but we'll run through Prescience in full just so we're all on the same page. Prescience, it's a psychic ability. In the ready step of each strategy phase, you gain D3 Prescience points. At the end of each turning point, discard your Prescience points. So whereas you used to be able to stack them, you can't anymore. You can spend Prescience points in the firefight phase as follows. You cannot use each of the following rules more than once per turning point. Foreboding, Psychic. Whenever it's your turn to activate a friendly operative, you can spend 1 Prescience point to skip that activation. And Portent, Psychic. Whenever an attack dice inflicts normal damage on this operative, you can spend 1 of your Prescience points to ignore the inflicted damage. You cannot gain or spend your Prescience points if this operative is incapacitated. Really nice change, I think, because being able to just stack them up and then you can just do Foreboding and Portent every time, it makes you have to think about how you're playing the operative and using those Prescience points more, which adds more tactics to the Nemesis Claw, but it also means your opponent isn't quite as oppressed by these abilities. The Nemesis Claw, I think, have quite a nice rule set anyway. We'll see what kind of changes that makes moving forward. I think they're positive. You guys will have to let me know if you disagree. Death Guard, Plague Marines. We have the one change to Contagion. Again, Contagion seems to get changed quite a lot as well, doesn't it? So the first bullet point has been deleted. It's within control range of friendly Plague Marine operatives. I was scratching my head too, so here's Contagion in full. Subtract 2 inches from the move stat of any enemy operative and worsen the hit stat of its weapons by 1. This isn't cumulative with being injured. Whenever any of the following are true. So it has 1 of your poison tokens and is visible to, or vice versa, and within 3 inches of friendly Plague Marine operatives, or it's visible to, or vice versa, and within 3 inches of a friendly Plague Marine Icon Bearer operative. So I think the intention by removing it from control range means you don't pop Contagion when you're in combat with a load of operatives and then you're stacking those buffs. I think that's the change. We'll see how it plays out. I don't think I'm fully grasping that one, because if you're within 3 inches of, you're still going to be doing that if you have poison. So that's actually quite a big change looking at it. Whenever you were within control range of a Plague Marine, you would be worse to fight, basically. They've completely removed that, and now that only happens if you're within 3 inches of the Icon Bearer. Otherwise, you have to be poisoned and within 3 inches of a Plague Marine. So that has taken a huge chunk of Contagion away. Contagion was pretty oppressive, I think, but I don't know if it was quite that oppressive. This all feels like it's close quarters changes again, but we'll see. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thousand Sons, Warpcoven, couple of changes here. So Sorcerer Operatives, the Prosperine Kopesh weapon, the attack stat has been changed to 4, and it's gained the Balanced Weapon rule. And Strategic Ploys, Brotherhood of Sorcerers, the relevant part has been deleted. The Psychic Weapons have the Balanced rule if another Warpcoven Sorcerer Operative ... So they have removed Ceaseless, so you can't get Ceaseless if you already have Balanced. It is just Balanced. That is a change that we're seeing with this weapon rule stacking ability. They're just removing that, I think. That was something they added in the last update, or maybe 2 updates ago. They've kind of thought that's a bit much for Space Marines, which is probably true. So if you have Balanced, you're not gaining Ceaseless. Probably fair. We'll see what this does to Thousand Sons. Chaos Cult, couple of changes here. Strategy Ploys, Exaltation in Pain. The first sentence has been changed to read, you can ignore any changes to the hit stat of friendly Chaos Cult operatives' weapons from being injured, including their weapon stats has been removed. So you just ignore changes to hit stats. They live for the pain, they live to worship, and they see pain as a gift from whichever god they're following. It makes sense that that would drive them on, not necessarily distract them for their hit stats. So I quite like that change. And then Faction Rules, Accursed Gifts, Barbed. Relevant part of the second bullet point has been changed to read, the first time you strike during that sequence, also inflict 1 damage. Just confirming when it happens, and that it happens the first time you strike, not every time you strike. World Eaters, the Goremongers, a couple of changes here. So faction rules, Sanguine Vitae rejuvenate. The effect has been changed to read, this operative regains D3 plus 1 lost wounds. I believe that is just adding the plus 1 to make sure that you always gain 2. I think the change there is I haven't got my cards to hand and I apparently didn't have them downloaded on the app, but that's what I think that changes. I think you gain a little bit of extra healing every time you do that. Quite a nice change. And the Blood Herald operative impending apotheosis rule. The relevant part has been changed to read once per battle when an attack dice inflicts normal damage on the operative, just changing it down from damage, meaning that damage done by crits is going to go through. As it should. The upshot of all of these changes to critical damage actually going through means that those lethal weapons are even more deadly. We'll see how that affects everything else, but I'm okay with this change because I think if you roll a 5 on lethal 5 up, or a 6 naturally, you should always get something for that. Interesting changes, I'm here for it. Necrons, the Hirotek Circle, couple of changes here. So, the Chronomancer, Psychomancer, Technomancer and Immortal Despotech operatives. Interstitial command action. The relevant part has been changed to read an enemy operative or while counteracting. I thought I grabbed that screenshot. Bear with me, once again as if by magic. So I'll run through interstitial command in full. It's a support ability. Select one other friendly Hirotek Circle operative excluding the Apprentech and the Cryptech. Visible to and within 6 inches of this operative. Or visible to and within 6 inches of a friendly Despotech operative that's visible to this operative. That selected operative can immediately perform a 1 AP action for free. It cannot move more than 2 inches during the action, perform an action it's already performed during this turning point, or perform that action again during this turning point. The clarification there, this operative cannot perform this action while within control range of an enemy operative or while counteracting. Little bit of a nerf, but I can kind of see why. As a counteraction, you're not forward thinking, it's a command that you've already planned. Logically, it sort of makes sense. We'll see what it does to those operatives. I don't think it's going to make a huge amount of change. But again, we'll see. It is an interesting change. It's more of a clarification, but it is a balance update as well, so I see why it's in purple. And then we have some changes to the Chronomancer operative, the Time Splinter action. So both distances in the second and third sentence of the effect have been changed to 5 inches, which is down from 6 inches. The last sentence of the effect has been changed to read, note that a comms device from Universal Equipment only affects the first distance of this rule. And then we have the relevant part of condition changed to read an enemy operative during its first turning point, or if a friendly operative has already performed this action during this turning point. Quite a few changes there. I'm going to run through Time Splinter in full. So again, it's a support ability. Select one expended friendly Hirotek Circle operative, visible to and within 5 inches of this operative. Remove it from the kill zone and set it back up, visible to and within 5 inches horizontally of this operative. In a location it can be placed. Note that the comms device from Universal Equipment only affects the first distance of this rule. And then the restriction, this operative cannot perform this action while within control range of an enemy operative during the first turning point, or if a friendly operative has already performed this action during this turning point. So it is a once per turn ability regardless of where you use it. You can't use it in your first turning point and obviously within control range of an enemy operative. I'm not sure why they've changed it, bringing the distance down an inch. I think, again, this all just looks like close quarters changes. It's further restricting the board, obviously with walls and things set up in the way. Visibility is really going to be down regardless. I don't know if Time Splinter was breaking the Hirotek Circle, and I don't know what knocking it down from 6 inches to 5 inches actually does. You guys will have to let me know in the comments. Is it a good change? I don't know. I think quite a few of these changes are actually a little bit head scratchers, aren't they? Genestealer cults, the Brood Brothers. Quite a few changes for the Brood Brothers. So, Firefight ploys, Insidious. Additional text added at the end of the paragraph. You cannot use this ploy during the first turning point. Quite straightforward. Restricting when you can use it. The Icon Ward operative Broodmind Devotion rule. The first sentence has been changed to read once per turning point when a ready, friendly Brood Brother Broodguard operative is incapacitated while visible to and within 6 inches of this operative. You can use this rule. Again, clarifying, while visible to feels like a close quarters change, because as soon as those walls go up when you're playing in a close quarters board, visibility becomes much shorter. The Magnus operative spiritual leader rule, the first sentence has been changed to read strategic gambit. If this operative is in the kill zone, select one of the following for friendly brood brother operatives to have until the end of the turning point, or until this operative is incapacitated, whichever comes first. So I will run through this one. Those options that you can pick haven't actually changed, it's just the rest of the wording. But it's whenever an operative is shooting a friendly brood brother operative, ignore the piercing weapon rule. You can ignore the changes to friendly brood brother operative stats from being injured, including their weapon stats. And you can ignore any changes to the APL stats of friendly brood brother operatives. So you select one of those, as long as the Magus is on the kill zone and it's until turning point is over or he's incapacitated. As soon as he's incapacitated, all those benefits stop. If you're going up against brood brothers, kill the Magus first. And then our final change to the team, the Primus operative, the Mastermind rule. Relevant part of the first sentence changed to read, you can do one of the following. You cannot select each option more than once per battle. I thought that was quite straightforward. Whichever the options are, you can only do them once per battle. Easy enough. Tau Empire, the Pathfinders. A couple of changes here. Strategy ploys, recon sweep, additional text added at the end of the paragraph. You cannot use this ploy during the first turning point. They did say they were toning the Pathfinders down because of their hard-hitting shooting. We'll see what change that makes moving forward. The Grav Inhibitor drone operative, the Grav Inhibitor rule, the first bullet point has been changed to read, whenever an enemy operative performs an action in which it moves excluding dash, if it would move visible to and within 6 inches of this operative, treat the distance as an additional 2 inches and ignore the additional distances from the obscuring and accessible terrain rules. I'm not entirely sure why they've reworded this way. I think it's the same thing, it reads to me like it's the same thing, but I don't know why it's been changed. So I understand toning down recon sweep. I don't necessarily understand changing this Grav Inhibitor rule. So it used to be any movement, subtract 2 inches from that movement. It isn't written that way at all now, so you're not actually interfering with an enemy operative's movement stats. Not that it counted as a change, but still. But it's any move excluding dash, which it used to be all moves, so that's a bonus. Because dash is a shorter movement, I understand why that's excluded. It is fundamentally the same thing, but instead of removing 2 inches, you're adding 2 inches on to the distance that opponent has to travel. Making it harder to charge or do whatever you want to do, that's fine. I'm just not entirely sure why this change has been written this way. Pathfinder players, you probably have a better grasp of this than me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And that is our final change for Kill Team July 2025. So like the article says, this is very much the quarterly balance update. There's not a huge amount of things in there. I think they're precise tweaks to certain teams and how certain teams interacted with certain rules. On the whole, I think they're pretty good changes. As I've said throughout this entire video, I feel like this is building up to whatever Season 2 of this new Kill Team 2024 edition is going to be. We're definitely going back into the close quarters, probably much more focused on the close quarter stuff if a Tomb World box is going to be the standard for games, which it feels like it might. Hopefully Gallowdark is still going to be an option as well, because they have said that the boards are slightly different, but we'll see. There's some interesting changes in this, and I'm not entirely sure I'm on board with all of them, but I'm not entirely sure I understand all of them. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Hopefully you'll keep me right down there. Hopefully you like this new format as well. I'd love your feedback on that too. If you have enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, do all the YouTube bits. I try not to ask often, but it really does help channels grow. We're continuing to see good growth. The community is growing. There's always something going on in the comments and things. Really, really nice to see. So thank you all for being here. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.